fear is the experience of non-existence. And what I mean by that is very simple. We don't fear death. We don't really fear death. We fear specifically the experience of non-existence. The reason that we experience the fear of non-existence is because we actually exist. Fear is the signal of our mind telling us that we have an incorrect belief about what we are and about what reality is. So whenever we experience fear, it's an opportunity to wonder why, to wonder what it is. Now, I'm not talking about fear if someone's pointing a gun to your head, right? I'm talking about unnecessary fear that we all feel. The reason I'm making this video right now is purely because I needed this video. 7 years ago, when I was experiencing supreme, super psychotic fear and paranoia, I was consistently trying to find someone or something that could help me relieve my fear of death. I had this extreme fear of death through exploring psychedelics, and what I was really fearing was that I would someday not exist. I was fearing that someday I would die and I would stop existing, and I didn't want to stop existing. And I would search everywhere. I scoured the planet to help remove this fear of death. And what I'm going to share in this video is exactly how we can overcome this fear of death by realizing that we actually can't die. Now, you don't have to believe me whether we can or can't die. It doesn't make a difference. If what you want is to actually stop having fear and fearing death in a sensible way, I'm not saying you're going to end up jumping off cliffs and doing stupid things that are going to kill you. Unnecessary fear, right? Which is the goal. It's going to stop all anxiety. It's going to stop everything that is negatively happening in your life is going to be removed from removing this one fundamental thing. It's the trunk of the tree. It's the essence of all our disruptions in life. So the approach that I took was to really recognize and understand, what am I essentially? What we are essentially is fundamentally real. If I was to ask you the question right now, are you real? You would say, yes, I'm real. Then we don't even need to know what that reality is yet. We just need to know that we're real. If I was to ask you, do you exist? You would say, yeah, I exist, right? If you exist, you have to be real. Now, the second thing that we know is that there is existence, there is an experience. And that's fundamentally factual for everything that could possibly experience. So what we're doing is we're realizing that if I am real, and I know that I'm real, and I know that there is an existence, we don't need to know the reality of the existence, but the fact and nature that there is something means that it is real. There is a truth behind it. Even if it's an illusory experience, there is a truth behind it. Even if we go to dream at night, we have a dream. It's an illusory experience, but there is a reality behind it. There's something that created that thing. So what we're doing is essentially establishing, if I know I'm real, and I know that there is reality, I have to be reality. You can't be separate from reality. You can't be something that is not born from whatever reality is. You have to fundamentally be that. So if you are this reality and you know that you're real and you know that you exist, well, what does that actually mean? That means that you cannot be separated from anything in reality, like what your essential is. If we were to essential nature is, if we were to strip you back one by one, you're obviously not a finger, you're obviously not a fingernail, you're obviously not an arm, you're obviously not a hand, you're obviously not a nose or an eyes or ears, you're obviously not a thought, an image, a sensation. So what are you if we took all of that away? You are pure being. You are pure reality. That reality that you know, that existence that you know when you say that you exist and that you're real, is your reality. The knowledge of that pure reality, that's pure existence. Now, fear is when we believe that we don't exist. Now, let me make this very, very clear. If we believe we don't exist, what that really means is that we believe that our existence is dependent upon something that is temporary, limited, and finite. Now, what we know and what we can find out is that what we are is not an object. If you were to go to your direct experience and experience being aware, if I was to ask you to ask the question, what is it that's hearing this thought? If you ask that question in your mind, what is it that's hearing my thought? That's you. You realize that's you, right? You're listening to yourself thinking. Well, when you realize that it's you listening to yourself thinking, that's your experience of pure consciousness right there. And that pure consciousness, ask yourself, does this pure consciousness, the aware aspect of my experience, does it have any type of limitation? Does it have a border, a boundary? Can anything touch it? If I was to get an imaginary hand, could I grab it and contain it? Nothing can contain it. Nothing can touch it. It's just the observing aspect of experience. And we realize that if that has no size, shape, form, or color, then it isn't an object. Anything that isn't an object is infinite, not finite. It doesn't have any size or shape, so it can't be limited. Let me ask you, how many infinite consciousnesses do you think there can be? There can't be more than one. You can't have more. You can't have infinite consciousnesses. They would be the same consciousness, one infinite consciousness. And what we find is that, so when I say that I exist and when I know that I'm real, I have a reality, what we're saying is, I am reality. I am this unobjectified, pure consciousness that has no size or shape or form, therefore cannot be limited by anything in experience. Get this, that must mean that you are behind experience. You are not in experience. You are a witness of experience, which means you don't exist in time or space. Which means that what you are is beyond time and space. If you're beyond time and space, tell me what could possibly be beyond time and space? Well, it must be reality. Time and space is maintained and sustained by reality. That's the reality of time and space. So we realize, and I know I'm going very, very direct and quick with you here, but this is super important. I'm on a YouTube video. How long do we really have? If you want to learn more about this, in a very more structured way, I have a free community. The link's in the description. Check it out. But we need to see that we are the nature of reality, like our essence, pure consciousness, our being, the fact that we are existing and real and aware. That is the same reality that everybody else is experiencing. They're all experiencing different content, right? They're all experiencing their bedroom, their living room, their life, their relationship. But the consciousness that experiences it is always the same consciousness. There's not loads of different consciousnesses. One person can't have one non-objectified beyond space and time consciousness and another person having their own non-objectified, completely imperturbable, unseparate, like no size, shape or form consciousness. You can't have more than one of those. It's physically impossible. It wouldn't make sense, because if it did have one, it would have to be an object. And if it was an object, it would be maintained within a greater reality, which would be that reality of pure consciousness that you are experiencing right now. And you know that you're experiencing that right now by nature of hearing my words. So what this means is that there is only one consciousness. And if there's only one consciousness, then, and it's not objectified, it cannot die. It can't be born, because anything that's born is born in time and space. Time and space is the birth of birth, right? It's the birth of birthing. It's the birth of beginning, middle, and end. You are not a beginning, middle, and end. Your direct experience, you have never begun and you have never ended. You've never experienced the cessation of what you are. You've only been one continuous experience. And that has only been what you've known. So what we're doing is we're saying that this real ultimate reality of pure existence, this absolute reality, I am real, I exist, I'm alive, and I am an ultimate, infinite, imperturbable consciousness. And what we're doing is we're saying, I am this limited, finite body and mind. And a limited, finite body and mind does not fundamentally exist. It doesn't, it can't. Something that fundamentally exists must exist no matter what. It must exist no matter who is observing it, what is there, anything that's happening. It must be fundamentally real. You are fundamentally real because you are there no matter what experience is happening, no matter who is experiencing it. There can only be one awareness. There can only be one consciousness. And that is what you are. So if you believe that you're a body and a mind, something that fundamentally starts and ends, like last night's dream was real while you were having it, but it had a greater reality. You, the dreamer, Now, your body and mind, it is real while you experience it, but it doesn't have it's not an ultimate reality. It's not an ultimate realness like you are. It is temporary, limited, and finite. It starts, it's maintained, and then it ends. You think that you are limited to the start, middle, and end of the body. If you think you're that, you will experience fear. Because fear is experiencing ultimate reality limited to something unreal, temporary, and non-existent. Something that exists has to exist no matter what. The body cannot exist anywhere other than time and space and has to be maintained. It's very limited. You are not that limited. You are infinite, pure consciousness. You cannot be maintained, you cannot be created, and you cannot die. So by definition of your belief that you are limited or inside the head, and when the body and the mind dies, you die with it, you will experience intermittent fear for your entire life, and you will subconsciously be looking to be relieved of that fear because it isn't true. That experience is not a true experience. It doesn't come from a fact of reality. It comes from an illusory perspective of what you are. So to remove fear, period, and like I said, unnecessary fear, right? Fear that's destructive, fear that contracts you, fear that makes you limited, fear that takes away your freedom, then you need to recognize the truth of your experience, just like we have here today. And you need to recognize what you are, cannot die, is not born, and get deep in that recognition. That glimpse that you might have had when you asked yourself the question, what is it that is hearing the sound of my thought? When you realize that that was you, that was your glimpse, that was your experience of pure awareness. Now, if you take that journey, what's going to happen is that you deepen the recognition to the point where there is no recognition. It's what you live by. It's the experience that you have of pure being, pure consciousness. And you know for absolute certain that you cannot die. If you want to learn more about this, obviously I have my free community, like I mentioned, 5 sessions every single week, making sure that you are convinced by what I'm saying. And like I said, it's completely free, so it's a win-win. So click the link in the description if you like that. Leave a like on this video if it's helped you, and I look forward to seeing you. Take care. Bye.